Hi, I'm Sean with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and this video should just give you a few tips to improve your accuracy while shooting a bow and arrow. This video is intended for people who already are experienced archers and are trying to improve. So you already have your equipment set up, everything is where it needs to be, but you're still having some difficulty hitting a bullseye every single time. So to start, let's look at our hand. We'll go from the farthest point away from us and work our way back this way. So our hand that holds the bow. The first thing I want to point out is the muscles in this hand can make a difference while you're shooting. So when you put your hand on the bow, you want to keep the muscles in your palm as relaxed as possible. I'll just step up to the camera here and show you. When I'm holding the bow, my fingers are relaxed, just draped around the handle. I don't want to grip it because when I shoot, because of those muscles being tensed up, I can throw the shot off. And I don't want to hold it open because in doing this, I'm using muscles to hold my fingers out here. And again, those muscles that we're using can eventually throw our shot off. So I just put my hand there and I relax those fingers around the grip. I keep every muscle in that hand as relaxed as possible. And another thing is when the bow goes off, since my fingers are there, the bow doesn't fall out of my hand. Now the next area that causes a lot of problem for people is actually this shoulder right here. And a lot of people overlook that. Before I talk about that though, let me just say this. One of the reasons why this shoulder can cause a problem is because some people get a little bit too caught up in arrow speed and how close your sight pins are together, and what happens is they end up trying to shoot with too much poundage on their bow. So they're really fighting to pull the bow back, and what happens is when you're fighting to pull the bow back and you're using all these muscles, when you reach full draw, a lot of people never stop to relax those muscles that they don't need to hold the bow back. So in this case, there's muscles in this shoulder that when you're at full draw, if you don't relax those muscles, they can end up throwing the shot off. Another problem is if your poundage is too high, because the muscles in this shoulder are fighting so hard to hold the bow steady, you can pull the bow out, push the bow up or to the side, and that can cause your arrows to shoot high or to the right or to the left. So if you reach full draw and you can't hold that sight pin very steady on your point that you're aiming at, try lowering the poundage until you get to the point where you can hold steady. It's more important to be able to shoot accurately and consistently than it is to shoot a bow that has closer pins together. So the next part of your shot that you need to look at if you're having problems is, as I said, when you reach full draw and you check the muscles in this shoulder to relax the ones you don't need, do the same thing for your neck and your back. Very often people will tense all these muscles up and they can end up transitioning into the shot or translating into the shot and causing it to go off target. Here's another big one that a lot of people don't realize. My head. Let's say I'm looking at my target right now. All right, I'm going to draw the bow back here just to show you. Now, another thing that I really kind of preach on and work hard with my students is your form. I want people having good, solid form. I really don't like it when I see people pulling their bow back like this and all this kind of craziness, especially if you're planning to hunt. All this motion and all this fighting to get your bow back, not only is that not good for hunting, but it's not good for your shooting. So here's good form. You want to look right at your target. You want to have your arms in position. You want to be able to pull that bow right back into position. The only movement is your arm that's pulling the string back, which means there's less movement to be picked up on by a game animal. So now you're at full draw. One thing you want to pay attention to is when you find your anchor point, always put your anchor point in place with your arm. Don't move your head around to try to anchor in. Some people do that. Like they'll reach full draw and then they'll be turning their head all around trying to get the right anchor point. And what that can do is if you take one shot with your head tilted like this, trying to anchor, and then the next shot your head's up and you use your arm to anchor in the right place, you're going to hit a different spot every time you do that. Now, since we're talking about our anchor point, here's another important thing to realize. When you reach your anchor point, if you hold your your hand in stiff against your face on this shot and then just barely touch it to your face on the next, that can actually change your right to left margin where your arrow hits. Another important part is when you're getting ready to let go, make sure that the muscles you don't need are relaxed, but then you come straight back with the release. Even if you're using a mechanical release aid, make sure it comes straight back. Some people have a bad habit of coming just slightly away from their face like this. Okay, so when they release, their arm's coming out like that. Well, what can happen is, as your hand is going away from your face, it can pivot your bow and cause the arrow to shoot off to the side. So these are just a few introductory tips, areas to focus on to help you improve your accuracy and consistency. And I do offer individual and group sessions to help train people with this. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email. But when you practice these things, just do one at a time. Don't try to do them all at once. Like when you go out, let's say you go out to practice today. Well, just start with focusing on your hand. Am I relaxing the muscles in my hand? And if not, spend this week training yourself to relax those muscles. And then the next step would be, when you reach full draw, make sure you're training yourself to relax all the muscles in your shoulders and your neck that you don't need. Now be careful, especially if you're new at this. Don't over relax your muscles so that your hand's coming forward. So do some caution with that, but if you have a good sense of your own muscles, then you should be able to relax the ones you don't need without any problem. Again, I mentioned the face, keep your head in the same place, not moving it around. If you find yourself reaching back like this with your head, maybe your draw length is too long on your bow and you need that shortened. So the last thing I want to talk about on this video is actually shooting. When you do shoot, I encourage you to only use 1 or 2 arrows at a time, especially if you're having trouble being accurate and consistent. 1 or 2 arrows at a time will help you keep your muscles as rested as possible. See, if you're shooting 6 to 10 arrows and then walking up to the target, you're really using your muscles over and over again right in a row, and you're not giving them a chance to recuperate. And what can happen is they can tire out, and that's where you can develop bad habits in your shooting. You know, if you're trying to shoot for long periods of time while your muscles are tired, you're going to end up throwing your bow all over because you're fighting to hold it steady. So that's why I recommend 1 or 2 arrows. See, if you shoot 1 arrow at a time and you walk up to the target, you're giving your muscles a chance to relax and be more fresh when you go to take your next shot. And that's going to give you the ability to train yourself to have good form and good technique. And in the big picture, that's going to help you be a more consistent and accurate archer. For more tips, shoot me an email or come to one of my sessions. I do individual and group training sessions. And until that time, and until we meet again, as they say, good shooting and God bless.